and gentlemen, welcome out a special interview planned today. We've got the Svonavec in the house. I know a lot of our viewers will know them from around the community, around Middle Georgia campus here in Dublin, but it's going to be a special interview. So, of course, Dr. Svonavec and Dr. Svonavec in the house. So, for future, for the rest of this interview, I'll say Dr. Stephen and Dr. Kara, but I might change them out. Dr. Svonavec, Dr. Kara. So,
and that's the only time you're allowed to do that.
Yes,
the only time
yes.
is only during this. That's
Yes.
it. Not at school.
That's
not
right.
At, no,
That's right. Yeah. Hey, I had both their classes, so they don't know this, but first semester I had their class, and right when I had both of y'all, I was like, oh yeah, they're getting interviewed at some point.
Oh no,
So-
I did not know that.
So
Your grade would have been different. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
sorry.
kidding. I'm kidding. Joking.
So what better time? But we're right on the horizon for Valentine's Day here as well. So I mean, we got to get it in now.
Sure. Yeah. Why
So
not?
first, let's start out. Of course, we know a lot of people will know you, but let's do an intro for both of you. We'll start here with Dr. Kara.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Yeah, just tell us. Let's say where you grew up. How'd you get here in Dublin?
Oh wow. Okay, that could take the whole interview.
Hey,
no,
we
I'm
got
just
time.
kidding. I'm Kara Smith Svonavec. When I came to Dublin, I was Kara Smith. I'm originally from the Atlanta area. My parents still live in Cobb County in Powder Springs, Georgia. And I had been teaching at another institution up in that area, and I was looking for a job that would provide a little more job security. What I had was term to term is what they call it.
Sure.
And so I was looking for basically anything that would be a little bit better than that, and a fairly young, I think 3 years out of my PhD, I guess, and all that kind of thing. So I applied at this place called, at the time, it was Middle Georgia College, I guess. We've been through so many names, sometimes I forget. But at any rate, so it was in this place called Dublin, Georgia, and I was like, oh yeah, I stopped there. They've got really nice places to stop. It's like the halfway point between Macon and Savannah,
sure.
which is where when everybody asks me where it is now, that's exactly what I tell them. Hey, come stop here, and all that. And so sure enough, that's how I knew it. That's where we stopped. And I put in the job application, and for a lecturer of history is what they call it at this campus, and got the call, got the meeting,
Right.
Did the whole thing, and it was kind of a quick process because they needed somebody for fall, and this was July, yeah. It was pretty late in the game. And so I literally brought my parents with me to go look for housing while I was on this campus interview type thing. And so the first time I met Stephen is when I showed up for the interview.
Right.
He was the campus director on the search committee, and my then chair and assistant chair were on the committee as well, and we all just clicked. And a couple days later, the dean emailed and said, "We'd like to offer you the position," and I'm like, "I'll take it," basically, because it sounded good and
Sure.
provided that security. So and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good for you as well.
Oh yeah,
I mean, here we are.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, not too
I mean,
bad.
all leading to this interview.
Yes,
Yes.
Everything is leading up to that. That's right. This moment, yeah. Which seems odd now, though.
Sure.
When you think, because that was 2013, and we're almost 10 years into that. It's like, wait, what happened? So yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Dr. Stephen, let's hop into it.
Well, I too was teaching at another institution,
Gotcha.
not the same one, 2000 to 2005 up west of Atlanta. And it was a year-to-year gig, nothing permanent. And so looking at the job postings and saw one for Middle Georgia College, Dublin, Georgia, to be a historian on the Dublin campus. I had never heard of Dublin. I had driven by on I-16,
Sure.
I'm sure. I may very well have even stopped.
I at
at
least
the
had heard of
interstate,
Dublin.
but I had never heard of Dublin. Some of my students at the time had heard of Middle Georgia College,
Okay.
but they were thinking the Cochran campus. They had gone there for band competitions
Sure.
or something
Yeah.
like that when they were in high school. But I interviewed, got the job. I can remember getting a call from, as it turns out, the same dean,
Okay.
just 8
There you
years
go.
earlier. And he had missed me because I was traveling to a conference, and I tried calling him back at 2:30 on a Friday afternoon, 3:30 on a Friday afternoon, not knowing that the college closes early on Fridays. So then all weekend it was like, what was he calling me about? Was he calling to
me-
offer me the job or not?
Yeah.
But he was calling to offer me the job, and obviously I took it, came down to Dublin, moved down here, was a faculty member for 7 years,
Yeah.
and then sold my soul, so to speak, and moved into administration. Going over to the dark side, they have cookies. And I was the campus director, which is where I met Kara.
Yeah.
Okay.
When she came to interview in my office.
Yeah.
And
I mean, literally.
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 The first time we
Yeah.
met was when she walked into my office.
I mean,
for that
well, no,
interview.
literally, because it was raining, and I had my umbrella, and I didn't know what to do with it. And basically, I'm like, "Hi, nice to meet you. Here's my umbrella. What do I do with it?"
But and so now my title has changed a bit over the years. I now have some responsibilities in Warner Robins as well as in Dublin. But this is my home campus.
Right,
This
yeah.
is where I've been since 2005.
And this is the reason that everybody in Dublin who's ever met him knows how to say Svonavec.
Yep.
And you get outside of there and maybe yes, maybe no. And that's the running joke that we have with some of our colleagues.
Some of our bosses, after years of working with us,
we
can't
joke with it.
pronounce Svonavec.
Oh, we have a great time with it. It's a fun running joke here. But I'm like, yep, everybody in Dublin knows the name Svonavec because
Right. Yeah, I
Okay.
got there. It took me a little while, but I've got it now. Svonavec for sure.
Yeah. Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah,
you got it. It's no big deal. What's the big deal?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah.
So, Dr. Carey, you mentioned you grew up in around Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
And Dr. Stephen,
I grew up, born in New York City, raised in New Jersey. My family, other than me, everybody still lives within maybe a 2-hour drive of New Brunswick,
Yeah.
Right.
which is where I grew up, and my dad is still up there.
Gotcha. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, some big city folk. I mean, you
Yeah.
come on down
Yeah.
to Little Dublin. What is it like?
Well, think about this because no, seriously, our backgrounds are such that my dad, for much of his career, commuted into Atlanta, into the
Yeah.
city of Atlanta, worked downtown, and his dad, and they both worked for phone companies, which is just funny. But his dad commuted into New York City, so they had a lot of the similar,
Right, yeah.
similar type of thing, and we both had stay-at-home moms too,
There you go.
in all this. So it's, that was kind of a fun
That was
one.
sort of weird as we were getting to know each other and
Yeah.
realizing that. Well, one thing about Dublin is whenever anybody complains about traffic, I just laugh at them.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh.
like it takes you 2
Yeah.
cycles to get through the light at the courthouse.
Ooh.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, there's there's that small town vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People tend to know one another.
Yeah.
You see people when you're out at Kroger or eating at a restaurant. You know who they are.
Right.
They're not just somebody there.
They ask you about classes or registration or what did I get on my test? And I'm like, do you really want me to say that out loud? No, and that I think, because we've talked about this. We were out shopping one day. We're headed out vacation or something, or maybe up to New Jersey. I don't know. But, we're literally like in the middle of, say, Walmart, I think it was. And somebody stops and wants to talk to him. And I'm like, give him your business card. Office hours are this, and I smiled and was polite. And I'm like, but we're really kind of in a time crunch, and you go through that. I don't want to be rude, but we're not going to talk shop in the middle of the Walmart. That's
Right.
just
Yeah.
weird, or in the middle. It could be anywhere, and all that. And we laugh a lot about that. But I think for both of us, the learning curve was in a lot of ways. You can go anywhere,
Yeah.
and you're going to be talking about work no matter where you go, or people will recognize you.
Sure.
And in my case, sometimes if he's their advisor or if he's their instructor, and I have not met them yet, they know me, and they're like, "How's how's the dog?" And they'll call him by name, and I'm just like, "Who are you? How's it going?" And it's so, for me, that was a little bit strange, and like the idea of, oh, Kroger's busy or whatever, and the parking lot's half full, and you're like, no, that's not busy until people are parking along Hillcrest or
Right.
something like that. Just those ideas, and that was very, 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 very strange. But I do like the fact that we do all know each other, and when people are like, "Are you going to Pancake?" So, because with St. Pat's coming
Right.
up, I mean, that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I can talk about St. Pat's even
Oh,
though
yeah.
it's Valentine. Like,
Oh, yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay,
we'll-
just double checking.
we'll
I don't know.
multitask,
There are no rules here,
Yeah,
right?
no.
Yeah. And I joke about this, but first semester, spring semester out, so it's spring semester 2014. I knew there was a thing. I mean, but I didn't know it was a month-long multi-event, deal, and I didn't know. And so students started asking me, "Are you going to Pancake? Are you going to Pancake?" And that's all they did. "Are you going to Pancake?" And I'm just like, I like pancakes. That sounds great. And then I'm like, Stephen, what is pancake? Like, what is this thing? And he starts explaining it to me. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to pancake. This sounds great. And it was so much fun because you walk in and you see people in there, and then you meet their families, their younger siblings, their little baby cousin, their, all this. Like, you can't get up there. So it's, So.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine, a lot of the ways of Dublin, and it's, the South, for you, Dr. Stephen, Atlanta's still the South, but it takes some time to get accustomed to.
We think so.
Yeah, I would say. So we've talked about Dublin. Let's talk about Middle Georgia, okay?
Oh, sure.
We've talked briefly about your roles, but let's tell our viewers, what do you do in Middle Georgia?
Okay. You've already kind of done a little bit, but you can tell them more.
Yeah, so I am an associate professor of history, so I teach history, U.S. history, survey classes, but I'm also in administration. My official title is Director of Commuter Campuses, so I oversee the Dublin campus and the Warner Robins campus, and then there's other duties as assigned that my bosses in the provost office will assign me from time to time. So it's a split between the teaching and then the administrative functions.
Yeah. Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's definitely everywhere from many times a thing. Most of what I do right now, it's varied a little bit over the years depending on the needs of our department. I'm actually qualified to teach American government, as you know, as well as history, and I've taught all of the history surveys, some of the upper level European history classes or women's history classes that are more in my wheelhouse, if you will. So I like to joke around, if you use baseball terms or something, that I'm a utility player, and all that kind of thing. Sure. Yeah, so I've taught at the Cochrane campus, I've taught at the Macon campus. Again, I've always been based in Dublin, and then kind of oddly enough, right before when we were scheduling for fall of 2020, not knowing about the pandemic or anything like that, my boss said, would you like to teach some online classes for us? And, so we could really use that and whatever. Sure, absolutely, because I'd done some of those kinds of things before, just not here. I said, sure, and so right now I'm teaching 2 classes at Dublin, and so I teach a U.S. history and I teach an American government there as hybrid sections. They do a lot of their work online. They meet me basically to review, go over, do all those kinds of things, and once a week. So they've got some flexibility there. And then 60% of my workload right now is fully online.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So I spend a lot of time with the dog, a lot, and it works for some people. It doesn't work for others. I kind of enjoy it, actually. So coming in and out, doing the things. Yeah. But I'm on some committees across the university and do some things like that, which, as I joke around, they let me out of Dublin on occasion. So, and we joke about it all, but I get out on occasion. For sure. He's a little more out in the world than I am, and all of that. But I managed to get out there. So and sometimes it just depends on the semester.
Right.
To tell you the truth, Right. But so I do the full-time teaching, all that to say.
Sure. So how often are y'all on the same campus? Is it ever? Ever?
This is what's funny. Yeah.
When we started, because when I was just in Dublin, Kara was just in Dublin, but now the days that she's teaching are days that I'm in Warner Robins 90% of the time.
And it's great. So. Let me tell you, it is great. Well, see, we were joking around because, again, going back to, pandemic, and a lot of people were working from home. And I had people ask me, because he was, working from home during a good chunk of that summer, there in 2020. And I had some of my colleagues say, how are y'all working together? I mean, and all this, I'm like, we've literally almost always had offices right down the hall from each other. So I don't know that we know any different. And last semester was, I think, the first semester that literally every day I was on campus, you were
somewhere
else. Teaching at the opposite campus. And it was weird. I joke and say it was great, but it was also kind of weird. Sure. I'm like, I have to call him to talk about class or something? This is what? This is very strange.
And this semester, our classes are at the same exact time.
Okay.
Last semester it wasn't. It was at least different times of day.
Right.
But right now, every Thursday morning at 9:30, when I'm going into class in Warner Robins, I know that she's going into class here in Dublin.
Right.
So it is a little weird because, since we met on campus,
Yeah.
And so our entire relationship,
We got married on campus.
We got married on
Yeah.
campus, yeah.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
we've been down the hall for one another. I
Yeah.
could come and bother her when she was trying to get work done.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He does too. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's been different here lately for you, for sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. A little bit.
You're
Yeah.
adapting to the change well, no
Yes.
doubt about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
I think so, yes.
No doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a quick commercial break. Y'all stay with us. We got the Svonavec in the house. Y'all keep on watching.
Count on the #1 realty company in Dublin and Lawrence County when you're looking to buy or sell a home or land. All our agents, including Brian Howell, Charlene Lamp, Adam White, David Deeves, Jennifer Brantley, Jay Brantley, Jim Jarrett, Raina Dubberly, Yvonne Robertson, and broker George Durden are ready to serve you today. For all commercial, residential, and rental property, call 478-272-1535. Stop by 1700 Veterans Boulevard or log on to c21dublin.com. And you'll be dealing with the #1 realty company in Dublin and Lawrence County, C21.
You've dreamed about the perfect house, a place to call your own, and a place to not only stretch out, but to grow. Auto Owners protects your house because to you, it's home. That's simple human sense.
Ask Curry Maffett Insurance in Dublin if auto owners make sense for you.
Happy to help, man. I was just over there talking to myself anyway.
Hey, we're back with the Svonavec in the house still. So let's call this segment the relationship timeline here. So we've mentioned, you know, how y'all met, of course, you know, that job interview. So let's start there. Let's let Dr. Stephen talk about that.
Okay. Well, it's funny because
Be
I was on the
careful. No,
search committee.
I'm kidding.
Yes, dear. I was on the search committee for this position, and by coincidence, the first application I looked at was for Dr. Kara Smith.
Okay, there you go.
So all she was a name on, not even paper. It was electronic,
Sure.
and great, outstanding candidate, top of the list. Looked at dozens of other applications. No one ever moved above her on the list.
Naturally.
But of course, it's a 3-member committee, so we compared notes, and
Sure. Yeah.
everybody had her in a high position. So we did a phone interview.
They don't ask you to camp. They don't. And you don't get to campus to the interview.
Right.
They don't have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did a
Typically.
phone interview with several candidates, and she made it to the in-person interview.
Yeah.
And everybody was impressed by her. And like she said, a few days later, the dean called, offered her the position.
Yeah.
And we did not immediately start dating.
No.
No. It was later that fall semester.
Yeah.
We went with friends from the university to the university gala.
And let's be clear. You had no idea what was going on.
good
I
God,
totally
no.
set that up. Leanne
good
Tribble.
God, no.
If anybody out there, if any of your viewers know Leanne Tribble,
Okay.
or Leanne and Jack Tribble, great folks. We love them dearly. Leanne was with us at the time. Good friend, a good friend of his, good friend of mine. And basically, I went to her and said, "What do you know, about him?" And I had checked university system policy. I had checked the whole thing, so I knew I wouldn't do it because he's not my boss.
Right.
He is nowhere near my boss, ever, personally, professionally, anywhere else. And just get that clear for everybody. No, he. But I got with Leanne and said, "What do you know? Is there, just want to make sure you're not with somebody doing something. You don't want to,
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to poach, and that's just bizarre." And Leanne and I set up basically this kind of double thing to go up to this foundation gala.
Right.
It's a fundraising gala for the school. So worst case scenario, get to dress
Yeah.
up and go do a thing, and he had to go anyway. And so this is all going on. I mean, he knew he was going to the thing, but he had no idea. I think that it was
Totally clueless.
Oh yeah, he had no idea that it was intended to be a date.
Sure.
So, or if he did a good job at not acting like he
I'm
knew
not that
anything.
good.
Yeah, no, I know.
Not that good.
And yeah, so that's kind of where that started.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, we went to the gala, had
Yeah.
a good time.
This was end of
of course.
October, I
end of
guess.
October.
Yeah.
And then middle of the next week, I have to cover at the front desk on campus. Our receptionist was out that day.
Okay.
And she walks by and she says, "Hey, do you want to go to lunch?" So I'm like, yeah, definitely. I'd enjoyed going to the game.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah. And so we went to one of the fast food places and we started talking and we decided that we would go out on what I considered to be our first date that Thursday.
Oh yeah, that is what we consider
One of the
that, yeah.
local restaurants did trivia.
Okay.
And we're both,
Yeah.
geeks,
Yeah.
nerds,
Yeah.
historians.
Yeah, right.
So-
Also really good at trivia. So
very good at trivia.
Yeah, that helps.
And so we said, our first date would be a trivia date.
Yeah.
And at that, we didn't win trivia that
Oh,
time.
No, we
won
didn't.
another time.
Were we
but-
second? I don't remember. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
pretty
it had
decent.
to
I think
be
we're
a good
decent.
place, yeah.
We came up with a great trivia name too. So that was all. Yeah, things like that were.
But
good, yeah.
so I
important.
asked her at
It's
that
important.
date if she'd like to go to see a baseball game. And now
Yeah.
this is November, of course.
Sure.
We're looking at the
This
next
is
season.
November 7th. We're
'cause
talking.
I'm
yeah.
addicted to baseball, and
Of
the
course.
I'm a Mets fan, but the Braves are the team.
Oh, you're
so,
a Mets fan?
Yeah.
I think we're
He was raised in a
going
Yankees
to wrap
family.
this up. I'm just kidding. I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
But my family's a Yankees family, but I'm a Mets fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I asked her if she wanted to go
Nobody's
to a
perfect.
game next year, knowing that the Mets were like the opening day team for the
Okay,
Braves.
there you go.
She said yes. I took that to mean
why not?
get a season ticket for her. Because this is our first date. I'm asking her to one game, and I wound up I had a season ticket for myself.
Right.
Wound up adding a season ticket without telling her I was doing
Oh
this.
yeah, because that would just be really weird.
Yeah,
let's be straight.
So
yeah.
that we had season tickets
Yeah.
then to
Yeah.
the Braves.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know what I was getting into with that. I had
yeah,
no
she
idea.
did not know the extent.
No.
But anyway, so we go to the game, and as it turns out, one of the players for the Mets is someone that she liked, and so got something that she could be interested
Right.
in.
It's
while she's-
Bartolo Colon. Bartolo
Yeah.
Colon
Oh,
is
who
one of the
won it?
best pitchers ever. He's amazing.
One of the better
Yeah.
Braves pitchers of all time. I don't
Well,
know.
and he was
He
with the
did
Mets
come
at
to-
the. He was
Well,
with the
I
Mets
know
at the
it's-
time.
yeah,
That was one
yeah.
of the best days of my baseball life. Is when Bartolo Colon
Oh,
was
yeah. Sure.
came to the Braves. Oh, it was fabulous. It was wonderful. But he was
But-
like a couple months younger than me.
Yeah, there you
and
go.
I was 40. He's a 40 at that time. 40, almost 41-year-old pitcher. He's amazing. Anyway, okay, we
gotta
could go
love
on and on about Bartolo Colon.
So yeah,
Love that guy.
we continued not just going to trivia and baseball games.
Right,
We did
of
other
course.
things.
Right.
And by mid 2014, it was clear that there was something there. We were going to get married. Now
Okay.
there was no formal proposal or anything like
Okay.
that, but it was just a mutually agreed upon decision that we were going to get married.
I think I said, "Are we getting married or what?" What's the? I mean, what are your intentions here?
And they said,
something
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
sure.
It's like, okay, yeah, I guess I am.
Yeah, the dog liked me.
Right.
That was the key.
Yeah.
The first time I met the dog, he
Mm-hmm.
started licking my hand, and he hasn't stopped since.
No, that's a little bit of an
Euro,
exaggeration,
he's
but
a
yeah, yeah,
peekaboo,
yeah.
loves licking my hands.
Yeah,
And so
that was his way of
the
acceptance.
dog liked me, so I
That's
knew
big.
I knew I was in.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we set the wedding for November of 2015.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, on the second anniversary of our first date. So I only have to
That-
remember the one date.
That wasn't really a coincidence, actually. That was because it was a Saturday, and I was like, "Well, that's when we're having it." Clearly, so that's
So I like it because I
That's
only
why I
have to
planned it.
remember
Yeah,
the one
there
day
you
now.
go.
which is funny because my parents' anniversary happens to be on February 14th, and that's the reason why their anniversary is Valentine's Day, is so that my dad would remember.
There you go.
Which disturbs me
Yeah.
a little bit, you
Sure,
know, when they say that.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it
no,
works out.
no, it's fine. It's all
works
good.
out.
Yeah.
So we've talked about y'all working together. Let's talk about the transition from. Was there a difference? We're dating and we're married now, as far as at work.
Not really.
No, not really. It was
Well, one of the reasons why for me, because it was a very small wedding, nothing,
Sure.
and I mean, you're grown adults. It was first marriage for each of us, only marriage for, you. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it's, but it was a very small type thing. And like I say,
Right.
we did it at the school. We had the reception and student
Gotcha.
center. It was all very,
Sure.
at the time, very, very small. But one of the reasons why I waited so long to get married, because, I'm renting. It would have made more economic sense to, get married, move in with him, and then, all that kind of thing. I wanted to make sure that everybody, because we're, multi-campus institution, you don't know all your colleagues very well.
Right.
It's just, and all this kind of thing. I wanted to make sure that I was accepted professionally on my own terms and not just she's his fiance or his, whatever.
Sure.
And so that was one of the big reasons for doing that. But as far as actually working together in that transition from one to the other, I honestly thought that students would see it differently.
but no.
No. a couple of them jokingly said they were going to crash the wedding, and I told them they would fail, that semester. And now, again, jokingly, just for the record. But no, I think it was very much just I think there had been a betting pool both in my department and at the campus among colleagues. We, again, jokingly, I really don't know one way or the other, but they all just kind of expected it, and nothing really changed. I mean, I was surprised by that. I was very surprised by that. Gotcha. Do we have some challenges sometimes because with his position that he's in, unless he got a great offer somewhere else and he's not currently looking, did I think I was going to be living where it doesn't snow very much or anything like that, or really change temperature very often? Did I think I was going to be living down there for a decade or more and all that? No, I married into that. Whatever. I think for me, sometimes occasionally that's a little difficult, or I've hit the part in my career now where I really can't be promoted any further. It's just sometimes that can be a little odd, I don't think, and mostly I just tell him, this is what I'm just irritated today. Not at you, but I'm just irritated. So I think for that, the frustration is not so much the working together. Some of the things that frustrate me about that are possibly frustrate you because they frustrate me, and I think it's because more of it can be. That's why it's also good for us to work together, because we do not have children, and so we jokingly say, how people with children, they go out on a date and that's all they're talking about is their children, and that's the joke. We're not going to talk about the kids, but we're talking about the kids. We're always like, oh, we're not going to talk about work. Yeah, we're checking the email to see if that student emailed that was having trouble or whatever, and all that kind of thing. Oh yeah, we're talking about work all the time, and it's just because that's also what we do. And the way a semester rolls, once that semester starts, you don't really stop until it's done. I mean, you just don't. So I think is that fair? I think that's a fair. I mean, we didn't coordinate this before we sat down, obviously. But it's just. I think it's the most truthful thing without getting into the nitty gritty of a lot of it. But yeah, I mean, it is. Sure. Yeah.
So, with the wedding, with the marriage, came the name change. So let's touch on that. I mean,
my mother still wants to know about that. Actually, why'd you change your name?
Let's touch on that. And we mentioned at the top of this interview. It's going to be tough because you're both Dr. Svonavec. We're going to have to go first names here, of course.
That's
so
fine.
I mean, that can be kind of complicated at times too, if you're working in the same building, I imagine.
Oh yeah.
What's funny is now my mom passed away before we met, but when one of my younger brothers was getting married, she's like, "Why don't you take her name?" Because his fiance at the time's name was Dormeyer, and our name, of course, is Svonavec, and she had switched from Thompson to Svonavec.
Yeah.
And yes, everybody in Dublin can pronounce the name, but not everybody out there in the world.
We literally, and my mother, in her defense, she comes from a line of people with last names that it's very easy to pronounce. They're very just boom 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 boom, and she is not the best speller either. And anything else about that, I don't think I'm allowed to say. But yeah, she knows it's and all this kind of thing. She had a hard time with figuring out the name, to the point that I wrote out a pronunciation guide for how to do it, and she's gotten it now. And then what was so funny though, up in New Jersey, his dad was born and raised in Manhattan, so he's lived in either New York or New Jersey for his life, and all this kind of thing. Well, he calls me Cara. It's Cara when they say it, and so they always say Cara, with that accent. And my mom's like, can't they say Cara? And I'm like, and she's they've met it, they all like each other. There's no big deal. But she's like, can't they say Cara? That's your name. And I said, I think he's afraid of it now because he just looks at me and I know he's talking to me. It's kind of we could let you do that, right? And but no, it's hilarious with that. And I said, no, it's. And then of course, have some in Europe. It's Cara. It's and our boss is from Great Britain originally, so it's Cara. And I'm like, he can call me whatever he wants. It's like you sign the contract, you can do it. But everybody's had more problem with my first name, I think overall.
I think so, yeah.
Than they did with Svonavec. But it was weird coming from Smith. Mom said, why did you do that? Why did you change it? Because I 40 when we met. I was 42 when we
Right.
married. You would think, why? I mean, why? Why change it? I just added it because it's part of not a different persona, but I just thought it sounded good.
Yeah,
I don't really care for my middle name at birth or anything like that. And I was
Sure.
like, I always said, why did y'all give me such a boring middle name? It sounds so boom, boom, boom. And I just kind of, but it also shows, for me, it showed a different phase
Right.
in life. So you're kind of adding to, you're not getting rid of. It's just,
No, yeah.
except my middle name, which I didn't like. But
Yeah,
it's like,
but I mean, that's just, you know.
but that's still me too,
Yeah,
you
right.
know. But it's like, no, I just kind of added to it. Well, so for the students, though, they were so confused. Do we call you Dr. Smith? Do we call you Dr. Swan? Because literally, I'm married in the middle of a semester.
Yeah.
Some had me for classes before. We're like, what do I do now? Just call me Dr. S.
There you go.
And that works out when you email me, too.
Yeah.
You just do that. And it worked out really well.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of students who have trouble pronouncing Svonavec at 1st,
Mm-hmm.
they'll just call me Doc or Dr.
Yeah.
S. So
Yeah.
now then, 2 Dr. S's.
Right.
But, you know,
Only thing is, don't call him doctor and then call me Mrs.
Oh, no.
or something, because we
Yeah.
both have the same degree and from good schools and all that.
Right,
So it's like
sure.
don't do that. Don't
Right.
don't automatically quote academically downgrade the female
Right.
because that's what people
Which
tend to
happens a
do. We do
lot.
that in society a lot, and
happens
that's
a lot.
wrong.
Right.
Don't do that.
I'm with you. Look, not me. We're sitting here with 2 doctors. We're going to
Yeah.
take a quick break. Y'all stay with us.
Folks are coming from all over to enjoy the country cooking at Minner General Store. Start your day off right with fresh cooked breakfast, including grits, bacon, eggs, sausage, and homemade biscuits. Lunchtime, stop in for delicious fried chicken, pork chops, and all your favorite meats and vegetables. Look for our specials, including hamburger steak. We also have all your feed, seed, and beverage needs. See why folks are driving from all over to enjoy the food at Minner General Store.
'22 was another winning season at Dublin Chevrolet. Now we're gearing up for the new year. Whether it's a Trailblazer or a truck or anything in between, our selection is growing every day.
I love Dublin Chevrolet so much that I came back and bought another car.
Eli sells cars well.
Trey sells cars well at Dublin Chevrolet. And remember, go Dogs.
Progressive Rural Telephone Co-op offers a full range of communication products and services to its members in Lawrence County and surrounding areas. We take pride in being your total communications provider, and we work hard to provide quality services at the best prices. In addition to offering phone service, we provide high-speed internet and digital high-def TV. And we always strive to put our members first. Progressive Rural, your total communications company. Small enough to know you, large enough to serve you. ProgressiveTel.com. Call 478-984-4201 or stop by 890 Simpson Avenue in Rents. Progressive Rural Telephone Co-op.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Dr. Svonavec, Dr. Stephen, Dr. Kara in the house, still with us. Let's hit on. We've talked about the Mets for a little bit, and I didn't know you were a Mets fan. Just playing it up there.
Yeah.
But let's talk on that, Dr. Kara. Were you a Mets fan before that Mets game? Let's talk on that.
No. But I wasn't a Yankees fan either. I
Right,
think I'm supposed to say
yeah.
Yankee fan, or you have to say it. It sounds
Yeah,
weird to do
it's
that
all
in
good.
singular, whatever. I'm not from New York, so I don't care.
Yeah, sure.
Or New Jersey, but no, I really wasn't. Now I had grown up, and my mother, you have to understand, she will text him in the middle of a Braves game, even still thinking that we're watching it, at the house, and I'm like, he's watching the Mets game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not, sitting here doing. But of course, I grew up with Braves.
Yeah,
Fan
of course.
like, oh
I mean,
yeah,
right
it's great.
there.
Oh, Chipper Jones and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
and all that. I go back to the Dale Murphy, pastel blue jersey, the
Sure,
old school. I mean,
sure.
yeah, that's how we're going. And I think I can still go down the roster of the Braves during certain
Right.
years. Yeah. But I was never too much of a baseball fan per se,
Sure.
to where but I was around my mom, an uncle of mine, or family members who enjoyed watching it.
Right.
Yeah. Now, what I have since done, and yes, Braves fans, I will on occasion, if the Mets are playing the Braves, I will wear my Mets gear, and I will do that because That's part of what I agreed to, and I'm
lost
still
her.
grateful to the Mets for losing in the 2015 World Series, because had it gone to Game 7, it would have probably been the day of our wedding reception, and I was perfectly prepared to run that game at the reception. That is not that is not an exaggeration.
Sure,
That is
I
the
mean,
absolute honest truth. But I was prepared. I was going to do it. It was fine. My mom has he has a Mets stocking at their house when we're up for Christmas, so we're all pleasantly good with this, you know. But I'll do both. I mean, it's fine, and we'll smack. I mean, then I'll just smack talk whoever wants to smack talk with it. But see, he's more of a scorebook guy. He'll go watch a baseball game because it's a baseball game.
Sure.
We've only actually been to 2 Mets games in person, like in New York. In New York, yeah. I'm sorry, but we will go to, if there's a baseball game going on somewhere, I don't care if it's Major League, minor league, he will go and he will have that scorebook out and he will number the games that I've been to. So I can tell you that I've upwards of 150 plus in the past since 2014 season. Yeah.
But no, I love baseball. Now, if I'm going to watch it on TV, I'm more than likely going to watch the Mets.
Sure.
They're my team. I love their announcers.
He's always going to watch the Mets.
Always going to watch the Mets.
Yeah.
But if we're traveling somewhere and it's like, oh, we're driving by Salem, Virginia, there's a minor league team here, and it's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
We'll stop and we'll watch the Salem Red Sox play whoever. Yeah, and I have my scorebook there. And one time, years ago, before we met, I was in Savannah watching the Savannah Sandmats play, sitting behind home plate with my scorebook, and a little leaguer comes up to me and says, "Excuse me, sir, are you a scout?"
Oh, they'll ask me that. They ask me that sometimes at the minor league games if he is.
I so wanted to say yes, but I just couldn't, because there were actual scouts there.
Yeah, sure.
And so I said, "No, I'm sorry, but that gentleman, don't go bother him because he's doing his job. But that gentleman with the radar gun, that's a scout."
I figure they won't let me bring in a radar gun and be, whatever, but they'll ask me stuff and they'll just look. And he'll be heading the book, doing this kind of thing, and he can actually carry on a conversation at the same time.
Sure.
And of course, I'm people watching, I'm doing this, doing that. I usually maybe know what the score is when we leave. And but little kids will just, especially, it's really cute because they'll just come by and look at him and look at them. They've got their little jerseys on, the cap, so you know that they play t-ball or little league or something, and they're just looking at him like, it is hilarious. We love it, especially at the minor leagues.
There's nothing like a good old minor league game.
Oh no,
that's why it was disappointing when the Sandnats moved on. And I mean, there's the Macon Bacon and the Savannah Bananas, but we have not been to any of their games yet. But no, we've been to Augusta, see games up to Rome.
There you go.
Gwinnett, to see some games there.
We went to Potomac Nationals.
Yeah.
We went to
Harrisburg. Harrisburg Senators,
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of others. We've been to some spring training games when the Braves were spring training
Blue
down
Claws.
at Disney.
We went to the Blue Claws thing. Yeah.
So you mentioned Disney right there. Let's hop into there. I know y'all, since I've had one of your classes, I've probably heard of 3 or 4 different Disney. Is it Disney World?
Yeah.
Disney World
trips. Let's talk about that. Another common interest y'all share, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, since I grew up in the Atlanta area, Disney World was the place we took some of our family vacations. Not many, I mean, it's not like we're in and out of there all the time or anything like that. But I did enough of those to where I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed theme park concepts. When I first started working at 16, I worked at Six Flags over Georgia. So my dream was like to go work at Disney or something like that, and all this kind of thing. Yeah. And so I basically got him in it because the Braves did spring training down there at the time. So I was like, hey, we could go and like watch a game and stuff. And he's like, and he said, and he went down there once when he was 19 and they were visiting a friend of his mom's, further south. And he said, but I don't remember it.
No, I remember the trip.
Yeah.
I know there's pictures of me in the parks.
Okay.
But I really don't remember that.
I said, who doesn't remember this? Who goes to Disney World and does not remember?
And
this is my
the
question.
Motel 6.
Yeah.
And remembers being down in Fort Myers.
Like with your mom's friend and your brothers and all this kind of thing. And so, but I basically was just like, here, we can do this. This is something fun to do, on spring break or whatever. And so I basically conned him into that. And so, we go down there frequently enough and have annual passes and things like that to where
Sure.
you just go down, kind of take a little bit of a break, and
We'll go for like a long weekend.
We'll go 2 or 3 times
Right.
a year. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
walk me through one of those long weekends. What is the Svonavec
Okay.
Disney
So
World trip looking like?
we leave Dublin on Thursday afternoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
We take our dog with us. 12-pound Peekapoo, so small dog.
Right.
Yeah.
So he rides in the car with us, and we'll stop at a pet-friendly hotel. We've stopped at different places, but we've recently taken stopping at a place just outside of St. Augustine on the interstate. Stop there for the night, drive the rest of the way in the morning, drop the dog off at boarding at Disney.
Gotcha.
It's not Disney-owned, but it's on property.
Yeah.
So, shout out.
It's a great place too.
And
yeah.
then sometimes we won't even go to the parks, but let's say we're going to the parks, we'll go to, let's say, Magic Kingdom.
Right.
Park the car, get into Magic Kingdom.
And sometimes it depends on where we're staying
Yeah.
too. Like whatever's close, we
Or
might plan it
stop
on
at,
that. Yeah.
if we're staying at the Contemporary or Polynesian, we'll park the car there and then take, the transportation to
Gotcha.
the park.
Right.
We'll go through the park, ride some rides, people watch. We're both into people watching.
Oh, who isn't?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And at least as I get older, there's fewer and fewer of the rides that I rode when I was younger that I'm going to ride now.
Yeah.
So we'll people watch, we'll get some snacks. Maybe we'll eat at a restaurant in the park. Maybe not. It varies.
He will not ride the roller coasters.
No,
or anything
I've
like that.
never been a roller
No,
coaster
no,
person.
he will not do it.
Never been
He
a
will
roller
not do it.
coaster
Yeah.
person. Everyone in my family was a roller coaster
Okay.
person. Just like everybody in my family who cared about baseball was a Yankees fan. So I guess I'm a contrarian in some way.
Sure, yeah.
But
You're a sad person is what it is.
that's true. And then we'll go back to the hotel, one of the resorts that we stay at, Disney
Yeah.
resorts.
Yeah.
They'll say if we haven't had dinner in the park, it's because
Yeah.
we have a reservation at the resort.
Right.
Next day is probably going to be a full day at the park. And we'll go to a different park. We'll go to Magic Kingdom one day,
Sure.
Epcot the next. Sunday
Depends
we
on what's
just
going
have-
on, what the lines are like, just
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
yeah.
And sometimes we'll just go to the park one day, maybe
What
go
kind
to
of mood
Disney.
I'm in.
Go to Disney Springs the other day,
Yeah.
do some of the shopping there, do Disney related stuff. A couple times we've gone down there and we've caught a movie at Disney Springs.
There you go.
Because I have a nice big theater. And then on Sunday we'll have a breakfast at one of the Disney restaurants.
Gotcha, yeah.
Pick up the dog.
Sometimes character breakfast because
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
just
yeah.
fun.
You got
We
to.
have tremendously bad selfies with characters because that's our
It's
thing
a
is to take
tradition.
bag selfies
Yeah.
when
It's
we
a tradition.
travel.
Gotcha.
The
Yeah.
last time we were there, we had breakfast Sunday morning at Ohana, and they had the character meet and greet. So we'll just get up, snap a quick selfie,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then the characters go on and play with the kids and
Of course,
entertain
yeah.
the kids. We're not going to hold them up, but we will get a selfie with every character.
It was a
that
bad
comes
selfie with
by.
Pluto. That was
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
I've got to
And
do the
then
camera
I
next
called
time.
Pluto Goofy.
Yeah, it was bad. It was very, very
But
bad.
that was embarrassing.
It
Yeah,
was-
that's goofy, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, and-
all the dogs at the dog boarding, they all woofed at me because they had heard of it.
Yeah.
But no, and then we'll drive back from Disney on the Sunday morning. It's about a 6-hour drive.
6.5 maybe.
And
yeah,
I like driving.
it's fun. He
Yeah, sure.
enjoys it. It's
So,
yeah.
so we'll drive back up. It varies. We don't always do the same thing. We don't always go to the same parks. Don't always stay at the same hotel.
Yeah.
But we have fun.
Yeah, that's it.
And
yeah.
and he'll vary it up. And if it gets crowded, he'll be like several people ahead of me, and I'm just like, I'll catch up when I get there, and whatever. But I'm the one wearing the headband and the thing, and I've got the stuff, and having conversations with families and kids as we're walking by, like whatever. And it's just it's one of the only places where. Let's see, I'll be 50 next month. So, but not that that's. It's just
No.
it's just part of what it is. But it's one of the only places that I've ever felt like you could just go and kind of be a kid, even if you weren't a kid.
Sure.
You don't have to bring kids with you either.
No.
It's just like you could just go do your thing and
I wear
just
my
hang out. I enjoy
Disney-themed
it.
shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a nice
gotcha.
break. It's
Yeah,
a nice
right,
break
right.
for me. Yeah.
For sure.
And it's something we can. Just because he doesn't ride the roller coasters, I
Yeah.
mean that's whatever. And nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
Teacups,
can
man.
you?
That must be.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
nice.
funny. Yeah.
That's nice. So look, another thing, we'll touch on this. Before we started this interview,
Yeah.
We had a long history. We're talking about books, actually. We're talking about history
Yeah,
books.
we're talking about history, but yeah.
So y'all are both history professors, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess that's another thing that I guess maybe got y'all dating in the first place, and something y'all are both interested in, obviously.
Yeah.
So touch on that. How y'all are both interested in history, I guess.
Well, we're interested in different aspects of history.
Yeah.
My training is primarily in American military and political history. I wrote my dissertation about Carl Vinson, after whom the local VA hospital is named. So I'm more at the political, the military side of things. Whereas
I do, honestly, mine sort of dabbles in social primarily, but social, occasionally cultural, a little bit of political. But I wrote my dissertation. My training is by and large in modern Europe, and particularly like Britain and Germany. My dissertation was actually about one of Queen Victoria's daughters who really had a hand in and worked with founding their local chapter of the Red Cross, but also really working towards advocating women's employment, and so really setting up nursing as a viable means of employment for particularly middle-class women, who it's very interesting because you don't think about that very much, but they also needed income, and things like that too. And so we joke around quite literally, and the students tell us that if you put us together, we'd make one big history class, and I'm like, we should do that sometime. But so a lot of the things are exactly opposite. And the books on our bookshelves, it's just like you go from one extreme with the military history to the other with all my, and royal biographies and British biographies, and just and some just trash sort of tabloid stuff about the royal family, which you just think
mix it in.
Well, yeah, I mean, why not? And and so it's just exactly opposite. It's hilarious.
And I'll be.
And I'm more 19th century than
I'll have like the Battle of Gettysburg and submarine operations in World War II on my shelf.
And he'll have pictures of George Washington or something in his office, and I've got like Queen Victoria or some British type, thing going on in mine. So it's exact opposite.
There's some variety in there for
There's
sure.
some similarities, but it's some variety.
Y'all both mentioned your dissertations there. For our viewers that may not know, let's explain that.
Oh, sorry.
Among many other things, to get your PhD in any field, but specifically in history, you have to research a topic or take an angle on a topic that no one's ever looked at before. And they go, that gets
it's really hard to figure
and harder
out.
and harder. So a lot of dissertations are very niche related, and you need to research it. You go to the archives, you read secondary sources, you look at the newspapers. Depending on what your topic is,
you have to learn to read another language. In my case,
all of my research was done in the U.S., but I traveled to pretty much every state east of the Mississippi almost, going to different archives and doing the research. And the manuscript you write is book length.
Wow. Gotcha.
200, 300 pages.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, mine was, I know, a little bit over 200. I think 223 with all the stuff in there, I think. Don't quote. But yeah, I mean, and so for me, it was basically, I'm not going to say it was a history of this nursing association, but it was pretty much the history of it from 1867 to 1918, so through World War I. So and I love it. I don't like the writing so much, but I love the dig. I love the story. I love the story, and I like to know what happens. And so I'm just historians are just really nosy people, but it's mostly about dead people. I mean, so it's just, we kind of joke around about that, but
Gotcha. Hey, Dr. Stephen, let's touch back on yours, Carl Vinson. Of course, that's pretty big here in Dublin. And you told our class a story about you didn't even know the VA was here, or you didn't know it was Carl Vinson.
No, I didn't. Even when I started researching for the job, and at my interview, someone who was not supposed to be asking about my dissertation, one group asked you about the research, another person asked you about something else, and someone who was not supposed to be asking me about the dissertation asked me, so talk to me about your dissertation.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. And then I'm driving over, the interview was in Cochrane.
Gotcha.
Driving over to Dublin to tour the campus here. First time I'd ever been in Dublin, and I drive by Carl Vinson VA Medical Center. I'm like,
because somebody didn't do their research before their interview.
The person who was asking the question was local. And to this day, I think one of the reasons I got a leg up on that job search was that my dissertation researched somebody local whose sister, I later found out, lived in Dublin.
There you go.
So,
but it's also word to the wise when you're interviewing for any job, do your research on the area around the business, because you're going to get a Carl Vinson question or something.
For sure. hey, worked out great for you. So glad we have both y'all here in our community. So glad that I took both y'all's classes. Maybe I can make my way back. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean,
So hey, maybe we can get y'all back in here at some point.
We'll take you.
talk
We'll come.
history
Yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who knows?
Sounds
Whatever
good.
you want. Yeah.
This is Dr. Kara Svonavec, Dr. Steven Svonavec. Thank y'all for coming in today.
Thank you
very
for
much.
having us. We appreciate it.